The Saucony Kinvara Pro was designed to bring more bounce to your daily miles. Featuring a Power Run PB midsole and a plate, you might be wondering, haven't we seen this before? Maybe. You know, one thing's for sure though, this is definitely not the Kinvara that you're used to, and that is a very good thing. Stay tuned to find out why. Well, hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I need to let you know that Saucony did send these to me to review. They're not paying me for this. They're not gonna see this ahead of time. I'm gonna give you my complete, honest thoughts, just like always, every time. Well, first, let's start off with the stats of the Kinvara Pro. It is a neutral road running shoe designed to help you run a little bit more effortlessly in your daily miles. There is some flexibility to the shoe, but there's also a little bit of rigidity because of that carbon fiber plate, which we'll get to in just a minute. As for the stack height of the Kinvara Pro, it is massive. There's 42 millimeters of this awesome midsole in the rear, 34 millimeters in the front for an 8 millimeter drop. That is a lot of shoe. That is definitely the highest stack height shoe that I've ever worn, and it's actually over the limit set by the World Athletics, which is 40 millimeters is the max for marathon road racing. However, I wouldn't let that deter me from wearing this in a marathon. I'm not going to be placing anywhere near the top, so I think it's okay. My men's size 11 weighed in at 10.9 ounces or 311 grams. That's a average weight for a daily training shoe, but when you think about as much stack as there is of this shoe, I mean 42 millimeters, a carbon fiber plate, it's really a pretty good weight and it feels light underfoot. Just for kicks though, that is about 2 ounces heavier than the Endorphin Speed 3 here. As for the fit, I went with my normal size 11 like I do in all Sauconys, and it fit just fine. Keep in mind though, if you do have a wide foot, it's actually available in a wide, so that's pretty darn cool. But before we get to the rest of the details, scroll down, click that thumbs up button. It really does actually help out a lot. I would really appreciate it, and while you're down there, click subscribe and you'll see more videos like this in the future. The upper of the Kinvara Pro is a finely woven engineered mesh material, and it's definitely more structured than say the upper on the Kinvara 14, and to me it feels a lot more comfortable than the upper on the Endorphin Speed 3. The upper features many very small thin rubber, I believe it's a TPU material, overlays across the forefoot and the sides of the shoe here. It really reminds me a lot of the dynamic protection HF overlays that La Sportiva uses. These are a little bit thinner though, but really it's just designed to help give a little bit of structure to that upper, and it does a good job of that. As for the breathability of the Kinvara Pro, take a look at the tissue test. You can see when I put that hairdryer on low, the tissue came up, a fair amount. It breathed pretty well. When I switched it to high, the tissue went up pretty quickly and stayed up, so it definitely shows that it is pretty breathable. I can tell when running it does feel breathable also, but it does not feel as breathable as say the Kinvara 14 or even as breathable as the Endorphin Speed 3. In the toe box of the Kinvara Pro, there's actually a very small, like a toe cap. It's very thin, but it's not on the outside of the shoe. It's actually inside under the upper. And it really, I believe it's only to support the upper and give a little bit of structure to the shape of the shoe. I don't think it's gonna protect your foot at all if you smack a rock, because it really is very flexible. As for the width of the toe box, it's classic Saucony. So if you like the feel of the Endorphin Speed 3 or the Kinvara 14, you're gonna like this as well. It's gonna fit just fine. But remember, it is available in a wide if you have a wider foot. Moving up the medial arch of the Kinvara Pro, I didn't have any issues with discomfort or pinching or hot spots. It felt pretty nice size for my average size foot. I will say though that it does feel a little bit wider than the Kinvara 14. I thought this was maybe a little, just a pinch narrow, just a little bit on the midfoot. Not an issue with this, it felt just fine. And just for kicks, you can see my measurements on the screen of what my foot looks like. So if you have a similar foot, you should know how it might fit your foot. The tongue on the Kinvara Pro is nicely padded and protects your foot very well. It reminds me of the tongue on the Endorphin Speed 3, except I will say that I think it is actually a little bit more padded, and that's a good thing. It feels very good. And I have not had any issues with discomfort from the lacing system over top of the feet. It feels very nice, and yet it's still breathable. The lacing system, it's lay flat laces. I mean, there's really not a lot to say about them. They do the job, they stay tied. I've not had them come untied at all, and they're very comfortable. However, I will note that there is also an extra eyelet at the top if you need to do the runner's knot. For me, I didn't have to do it. I had a great lockdown with the Kinvara Pro. And in the rear of the shoe at the heel collar here, it's definitely nicely padded. It feels very comfortable on my foot. It's actually more comfortable in my opinion than the heel collar of the Endorphin Speed 3, and definitely more comfortable than the Kinvara 14. It's also more structured. There's a little bit more structure to the shoe and stability in it. It's not as flimsy as say the Kinvara 14. And in the heel collar, you can see it's a little flexible at the top. It's pretty firm at the bottom. I didn't have any issues with this heel collar or the heel counter. No Achilles rubbing, no pain, discomfort, which was awesome because that was my main issue with the Endorphin Speed 3. I think is really the angle of the heel counter. It's angled forward more, and it caused a little bit of discomfort in my heel, so much so that it really kind of prevented me from wanting to run further in it. Not the case with the Kinvara Pro. It's really been awesome. And like I mentioned, the lockdown has been fantastic as well. Overall, the upper of the Kinvara Pro has really been amazing. It's incredibly comfortable, it breathes well, and it feels really good on the long runs. Now, the midsole of the Kinvara Pro is where the shoe really, really shines. It comes to life. It's a dual density midsole, but there's actually kind of 3 or 4 components to it. The first of that is the sock liner. It's made of the Power Run Plus midsole foam. It gives a little bit more comfort and oomph to your ride. Underneath of that is the Power Run PB midsole, which is their PIBA supercritical foam. It's the same midsole foam found in the Endorphin Speed 3, the Endorphin Pro 3, I believe the Endorphin Elite as well. It's a fantastic midsole foam, very, very bouncy and responsive. And then underneath of that is their 3/4 length carbon fiber plate, and that features the Speed Roll technology. The Speed Roll technology is really just the shape and design, the geometry of that plate and the midsole working all together, and it really helps you have a very nice, smooth and efficient stride as you go from heel to toe and really get that roll through the toe. I really feel that the Speed Roll technology works better in the Kinvara Pro than in the Endorphin Speed 3. And I think a part of that might be that this had a nylon plate, which is a little bit more flexible, whereas the carbon fiber plate in the Kinvara Pro here is more rigid, more stiff, and it bounces back a little bit quicker. So you feel that propulsion just a little bit more. And finally, below that 3/4 length carbon fiber plate is Saucony's Power Run foam. This is their tried and true foam that they've used in so many shoes over the years. It's very durable, provides protection to your foot and that carbon fiber plate as well. So I've been using the Kinvara Pro now for almost 100 miles. And I gotta say, I really, really like this shoe a lot. This midsole, the ride is just, man, it's fun. It's bouncy, it's responsive. It feels good on the slower, easy days, but when I want to pick up that pace to go do some intervals or fartlek or threshold work, the shoe goes right with me and just feels fantastic. I've done tempo, I've done uphill intervals in this shoe, and the rebound is just really nice. You can definitely feel that carbon fiber plate. It's 3/4 length, so it's not the full length of the shoe, but I could feel it on my uphill intervals. It felt really good, responsive, that push back in the shoe. It feels great. I even wore them on a half a mile loop. There's a trail nearby that I wanted to go see if I could do fast, and I wore these shoes on an urban trail. It was pretty buffed out, but I actually was able to get 6 overall here in Colorado. It's my first top 10 in the segment here, but it was awesome. They did great on the trail and the speed was there. Overall, I think it's pretty clear from what I just said, but I love this midsole. The outsole of the Kinvara Pro is probably the weakest point of this shoe. As you see, it is all exposed Power Run midsole foam. There is not a single piece of rubber anywhere on this shoe. As I said previously, I have close to 100 miles on these. There's a little bit of wear on the outside heel, a little bit up here, but honestly, they're wearing pretty well considering this is just Power Run foam. I gotta say though, probably 40% of my miles has been on urban trail, so very, very hard packed dirt or maybe even gravel. And then the rest has been on pavement, so a good mix of surfaces, but that definitely affects the wear of the shoe. The grip has been fine really on any of the paved surfaces, even on the urban trails where it's been dry, they did fantastic. Now, I would definitely not recommend wearing these on trail if it was wet or muddy at all, because I would be slipping all over the place. But on the pavement, no issues in the wet. They felt just fine. Honestly, when looking at the Kinvara 14 here versus the Pro, I think my Pros are actually wearing a little bit better or showing a little bit more durability when I actually have more miles in these. So I guess that's pretty good. Overall, the outsole is okay. It's the weakest point of the shoe. I think with a little bit of rubber, maybe like the Kinvara here in some of the high wear areas, might help it last a little bit longer. But overall, it does the job. As for the price of the Kinvara Pro, it retails for $180 US. That is a lot of money for a shoe, and quite frankly, it really bothers me and it frustrates me to see how much shoe prices have gone up over the last 2, almost 3 years now. It's just they're continually going higher and higher and higher. However, with that said, if you think about the Endorphin Speed 3, this is $170 and this is $10 more. I would pick these over the Endorphin Speed 3 personally any day. I like this shoe much better. And if you think about the Hoka Mach X, that also retails for $180, and they're very similar shoes. So I guess it's kind of priced amongst its competition okay. It's just, man, let's get those prices down. So what's the bottom line of the Kinvara Pro? First, I have no clue why they named this the Kinvara Pro. It's nothing like the Kinvara at all. The Kinvara that you're used to, the kind of, no frills, you have a lot of ground feel in it, no, bare bones type of shoe. This is not that shoe at all. I don't know why Saucony just didn't make up a new name, call it something I don't know, something different. It's not a Kinvara. But with that said, I absolutely love this shoe. It's been my daily shoe now. It's the shoe I go to. If I'm not testing a new pair of shoes, I'm putting this on. I love it that much. And I gotta say, to be honest with you, I think this is probably gonna be my favorite shoe of 2023, at least for the road shoes. It's just fantastic. That ride, the midsole, it's awesome. It's energetic, it's responsive, it's fun, it's cushioned. It's just such a good shoe. So if you're looking for one shoe that you can go out and do your daily miles and you can do speed work in, you can even race in, this is absolutely gonna be a fantastic shoe for you. I would have no issue taking the shoe out for a marathon, or if I was doing a road ultra marathon, I would absolutely choose these shoes. But these have been out for a little while now. I know my review is late, but I wanna know, have you tried the Kinvara Pro? What did you think of it compared to maybe the Endorphin Speed 3 or maybe the Endorphin Pro 3, the Hoka Mach X, the Kinvara line? Let us know below in the comments. I'm sure everybody would love to see that as well. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. I definitely recommend checking out the full review of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, as I kind of think this is what that shoe should have been, because I love this shoe so much. And then on the other side of the screen, I'll throw a playlist of the other Saucony shoes as well to check out. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one.